All right, let's take a little bit of break from the Gamer Zone, and the first half is over with. That means it's halftime with Rhett Bryan, executive producer for Titans Radio. I'm getting kind of better at actually saying your official title in these things, and hey, the season's almost over.
Okay. Okay.
But Rhett's
Wow.
here. Yeah, I know. It only took me about 14 games, something like that, to actually start saying this properly.
You're good. You're good.
But it's kind of a weird situation, man. I mean, look, it's Wednesday, and I kind of feel like it's still we're all in this scenario of this just sucks. Like, I mean, am I the only one feeling like this?
No, it's a tough pill to swallow. It's difficult. And I think, you know, the biggest part of it is now that they're eliminated from contention, eliminated from the playoffs. That's what's settling in. But there's a lot of good stuff coming in the offseason. I know that's probably not what anybody wants to hear right now, but we can discuss whatever here. But there will be better days ahead, and they're not. You got to keep this in mind. It's never as bad as it ever seems.
Mm-hmm.
It's never as good as it ever seems. And so, in this case, it's not as bad as it seems.
Well, and I think that gets kind of lost on a lot of people because I mean we sit and complain and talk about 24/7. I mean, obviously we have all this sports talk radio to fill, and we look at every little thing that is right and wrong with the team, and we go, well, this is the offensive line's bad. We're having all these injuries. Reds, it. I mean, you've been through this for every single season. It's been a minute since we're playing a football game that doesn't matter. Like, it's been a while.
I'll give you how long it's been. Week 16, when there were only 16 games. So it
Mm-hmm.
was last uh, week in the season at Jacksonville in 2016, the night that Marcus Mariota broke his leg
Oh.
in Jacksonville. That's the last time. It's been the very last game or the ending of
Mm-hmm.
the season. It's been all that way for that whole time up until this season that you have been in contention and not eliminated from the playoff possibilities.
I mean,
So
yeah. I mean, that's what do you say, 16? So was that 6 years, 7 years that it's been since that happened? I mean, since we've been in this
it's
situation?
8 seasons.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's a long time for as much as we
yeah,
complain about
yep.
everything with this team and we look at the 91 injuries in 21 and all the injuries last year and the bad offensive
Mm-hmm.
line and Lawan going down in week 2. Like, it's been a minute since we're all getting ready and you're, getting ready for this weekend. And it's like, it doesn't, like, there's nothing to play for. I mean, literally, as far as the championship is concerned, there's nothing to play for.
To your point,
Yeah.
right before I joined you, I just got confirmation that I'm all hooked up and ready to go to the Senior Bowl. I mean, we're Coach Mack and I are about to pivot towards that here in 3 weeks. So, you know, that's just kind of the reality of it. And, here's the thing. Yes, the focus is on the offensive line. And, there's a couple other places of position where it's like, okay, that needs help. But there's still a lot of good pieces in place
Mm-hmm.
here. Your draft class has done quite well. Um, you're going to have a bunch of money in free agency. They won't spend it all,
No.
but they'll spend it wisely. And it happens to be a good year for offensive tackles and interior offensive linemen in the draft. So in the places where they do need, they can make some stuff happen. And if the salary cap goes up like it's being reported to 240 million bucks, gosh, the Titans would have, I don't know, 110, 115 million, something like that in cap room. So
Well,
here we go.
well, no, and I'm glad that you brought up the good pieces in it because the first thing that I think of with the good pieces is on the defensive side because as bad as we've talked about with the offense, I mean this morning I'm reading things about how this is the worst offense that the Titans have had since like 1994 and things like that when it comes to yardage per game and but the defense on the other hand, like this is a playoff defense. This is a AFC championship worthy type defense, especially with like the front seven. I mean, those are the good pieces in my mind. I mean, I don't know what other good
Well,
pieces are you seeing?
I mean, you'll have Tajay
Yep.
Spears next year. You've got you a quarterback. You've got Will Levis. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the thing that when Mike Vrabel came into the building this morning, that he'd been pondering for the last 48 plus hours is what's the approach? Because this is uncharted waters for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's never had to speak in a team meeting to begin a Wednesday work of practice and preparation where it doesn't mean something, where it doesn't count. Yeah, the wins and losses are tabulated, but that it doesn't mean something greater beyond week 18. And so, I think when we're talking about some of the pieces in place, I think that's why first of all, there's a couple of reasons why the Titans won't roll over and play dead.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it's an evaluation for everyone. And if you want to put your last effort on film that wasn't really a good effort, like let's just name names for a second. George Pickens' effort the other night, in that effort to try to not make a block and not get injured when they were trying to score a touchdown, that's what you don't want to see on film.
Yeah.
So, whether you're going to be a Titan or you're going to be somewhere else, because there will be lots of those, you want to put the best work on film. The other part of it is sense of competition and the spirit of winning and the spirit of doing. I'll give you an example. You think Derrick Henry's going to quit? Do you think if Jeffrey Simmons, if he's playing, and I don't know that he plays Sunday, but he's not going to quit. I'll give you a prime example of a guy who doesn't quit is Danico Autry.
No.
Guy's 33 years old, 11 quarterback sacks. He has a blocked field goal this year. He's a blocked PAT. He has 12 block kicks in his career. 10-year guy, again, 33 years old. And he's a prime example of what Coach Vrabel says in say less, do more.
And I mean, the man is a beast. And I think when I think of defensively, like with him, like you're talking about all the things that went wrong in the Texans games, but like Danico, I mean, that man, he was getting in the backfield. And again, you talked about the 11 sacks. Like that is something that I think that comes down to effort. And I think that goes back to what you're talking about is how hard it is to walk on the field on Sunday and not have to play hard and not being able to, because if you don't play hard, that's when you get injured. Like if you don't do well and you're not trying to go 100%, that's when you actually do get hurt. So with the coaches on that side, we mentioned 16. Like I know that people don't like talking or thinking about, 13, 14, 15, like those years. But when you get eliminated, historically, what have you seen teams do when it does come to the personnel that they put on the field after being eliminated?
It's been a while,
Yeah.
so I'm having to recall from memory.
It has been.
Look,
Tajay, I think, was still like in middle school.
Yeah, in the bad years in 14 and 15, they're well, I'll give you an example. All right, so after week 7, I guess it was in the 2015 season when Amy Adams-Strunk, when they fired Ken Wisenhunt and Mike Mularkey took over as head coach
before the Saints.
Mike Mularkey, right, and he had 5 days to prepare, and they won that game at overtime on the road. And no, they didn't win a lot of things before that, season was over, but that helped set the table for a playoff appearance the next season, which was your first playoff appearance in 9 years, your first playoff win at that point since 2013. Oh, yeah, I said 2003, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing is I try to look at the bigger picture of this because let's take this for an example, Joe. John Robinson was fired a little over a year ago. And I think that's because Amy Adams-Strunk saw where this was going and realized that there needed to be a change and maybe even thought that the franchise might take a step or two back before they can get to where they need to go. You can call it a reset or a rebuild or whatever you want to call it. And they tried to bring in free agents that can help them with what limited funds they had. The Andre Dillard situation, that did not work out. Okay. but Aziz Al-Shire, that's worked out good.
SMB.
So yeah, so when you have um, some positions that work out and some that don't. Look, if Andre Dillard had worked out, I don't know how many more wins that equates to. But what I'm trying to say is the darkness is right now, but I think the sunshine's coming again. And I think if they have anywhere as near as successful a draft as they had in 2023 earlier this year, they're going to be better faster. I don't know that they're going to be cured immediately, but 2024 is going to be better. And that's provided that, Will Levis doesn't have anything severe with his ankle. And, that's something else I want to bring up right here. I don't know who in the world on social media earlier this week said that Will Levis said that his ankle is fine and he knows that he's had his ankle twisted before and said he appeared on the zone. Nobody had him on the zone this week. First of all, we don't get to talk to players on Tuesdays normally. You don't hardly ever talk to them after a loss. And this is the starting quarterback. I don't know where that came from, but people are making this is a prime example of people making stuff up on social media to get some clickbait.
Well, and
he wasn't on anywhere.
No, and Rhett and I, we talked about this. I mean, this was a 2-hour discussion last night for you and I because, we started to see this going around on Twitter and we're going, Will Levis was on the zone. What are you talking about? And initially, when we all started talking about it, I thought it was just like audio from the post game or something like that. And then we started seeing on Twitter that people were saying that, oh yeah, he appeared on the zone and he was saying this and that his ankle's fine and that he's had a high ankle sprain and this doesn't feel like it. Like to Rhett's point, last night from about 5 o'clock until 7 p.m. when all this started like coming out and people started tweeting about this, I seriously went through every single show that we had on. I was texting producers. I was texting hosts. You were texting like the people with the organization going, where did Will Levis say this? Like he doesn't do interviews without something like this, without Titans people around him. Like where did this information come out? It starts going on to Instagram and all this. Like this didn't happen. Like this never happened.
Let's take it a step further. We would be doing a very poor job of promoting what the station is doing. If he was on and he said something like that, by George, you'd know it. You'd do every social media presence, every video presence, every digital presence would have something about the quote.
Yeah.
And when you can't find any evidence of that, that tells you, okay, I smell a rat in the woodpile here.
Yeah,
that was really strange.
Yeah, and it kept getting bigger and bigger, and next thing you know, these Instagram posts have like 1,000 likes and stuff of saying that this was said on the zone, and Jackson, who produces Mac Talk, him and I are in there searching for it as Mac Talk is taking place. I was doing it the last hour of 3HL as well. We're talking to all the hosts, and Buck's like, one of the people we asked was Buck. He's like, no. Like we didn't say anything like that, and Will Levis wasn't really on with strange. Us, and same thing with Blaine and Mickey. They're like, no, we didn't. Like none of that audio went anywhere. Like he has not said those words.
Well, and then in the replies on the Instagram post and also on Twitter, they're like, where can I hear this? Where can I find this? Where can I, and nobody could provide anything because it didn't happen.
Yeah. And so now we're
look. I don't know if that's I don't know if it's a combination of clickbait and like wishful thinking because we don't know. We do not know what the status of his ankle is.
No, I mean,
and honestly, if I'm being truthful here and what my gut feeling says, I don't know that Will Levis plays on Sunday.
Who should play? And I'm not saying should. I shouldn't ask the way that it should play is, you have the backups with Tannehill and Malik. We all assume that Tannehill is done as a Titan and that he's going to move on. Would Tannehill want to use these 3 games as an audition tape for 2024? Would Malik want to use these for audition tapes and show what he could do?
I'm going to answer it this way. How much audition does Ryan Tannehill need?
Yeah.
And with the way the line is having the lack of protection, why would you want to endanger knowing that you're more likely going to be a free agent?
Yeah.
and they've asked you to sit down and that there's a different starter. So I don't know what the dynamic there is. We're going to be waiting and to see what happens, just like everybody else. Um, I mean, it's one of two things. It's either him or Malik,
Yeah.
Willis, but time will tell. But I think they're going to have to arrive at a decision if I think that I mean, because Will Levis, man, even if he doesn't have a severely high sprained ankle or whatever it is, you don't want to take a chance that you further injure him going into 2024, knowing that you found your quarterback. Why make it more difficult by putting him back out there, re-injuring the thing, or even having a more severe injury and costing him time in the offseason when in year two, that's going to be so important that he's in the building, working, and adding a layer to this offense, whatever that looks like.
Well, I know that, and we got to talk a little bit about the Seahawks because that's who the Titans are playing, but still, when it comes to this offseason, we just talked about Tannehill and him signing on 3HL yesterday. We talked about how, his market value is under $6 million now to whatever team he would potentially go to. We've seen a lot of starting quarterbacks miss multiple games, and concussion protocol is the main thing on it. Look at CJ Stroud, missed last week.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, look at him. Trevor Lawrence is in concussion protocol, and the Jags just signed, I think it's CJ Perry that they just signed as, so you assume that if you're in concussion protocol as a quarterback, you're missing at least 2 weeks. What about the thought process of how valuable now it is to bring in, not just to have a body in the backup quarterback position, but somebody good? Like, I know that Tannehill wants to be a starter, but the potential of bringing somebody like a Ryan Tannehill in as the backup because of the way the NFL is in 2023 and 2024.
I mean, you're about in 2024, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I certainly think Ryan Tannehill will get a call from somebody just based on that. Plus, having veteran experience. Now, is that something that Ryan Tannehill is ready to submit to? Because he's been a starter for a long time. And again, going back to the human spirit and, competition and those things, pride is there. And I don't know where his mindset would be in that. And if I'm guessing, I'd say he probably still believes he is a starter. Anyway, time will tell on all of this stuff. Seattle's interesting because we saw what they did on Monday night in Seattle. Drew Lock, who hasn't really played much in a long time, orchestrates a final drive and hits Jackson Smith and Jigba with less than 30 seconds left.
Yeah, it was a really beautiful pass.
It's a great moment for him. And the Seahawks are one of those interesting, teams that you face. Last time we saw them was up there in 2021. That went to overtime.
Week 2.
And Pete Carroll, right? It was week 2. Yeah. Janico Autry had a sack and a half in that game.
that was Derek had his first big run of 2021 that game too. I remember that. Yep.
That's right.
Yep, because it was after the loss to Arizona. Yep.
And there was a no call on a safety on Russell Wilson.
That's right.
That should have been a safety.
And Julio should have had his first touchdown of the season that year as well. That they said his foot was out of bounds.
And Taylor Dewan went down in warmups with some type of a leg injury, and we did not see him that day. But Pete Carroll's still there, and they've got weapons, offense, defense, special teams, but they've had ups and downs. They're 7-7. Tied for third place in the NFC West, middle of the road towards the bottom third in a lot of categories, offensively and defensively. The main thing with them is, is it Geno Smith? Is it Drew Lock? It's the same kind of thing that the Titans were in last week. They're going to probably have to prepare for 2 quarterbacks. But the weapons, I mean, DK Metcalf, whoo. And then Tyler Lockett, who's been there for forever, just keeps making plays. Now Jackson Smith and Jigba is starting to get involved. And the other part of it is they run a lot of 3 tight ends. And there's certainly a 2 tight end sets. It's, Noah Fant, who they got via trade in the deal with Denver when they shipped off Russell Wilson last year. And then Will Dissly, who's been there for several years. That's something the Titans defense is going to have to contend with. And then they've got two young backs, Kenneth Walker, good back, and then Zach Charbonnet they took out of UCLA this year. There's stuff there. And then we haven't got to the defense. Boye Mafe is their leading sacker. Daryl Taylor from University of Tennessee is on the other side of that. Bobby Wagner is, a fantastic player, even at 32 years old.
It's like 2,000 tackles this year.
Yeah, yeah. And then, the drama they've got is whatever's going on with Jamal Adams. That was strange. He was a healthy scratch last Sunday, and don't know what all is going on there. But
apparently left the stadium. He's like, peace out. I'm good. I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch this at the house. Wasn't even in the stadium for the game on Monday night.
Pretty wild.
So, I mean,
this is, this is going to be about, stopping those two tight end looks, and certainly trying to bottle up their running backs and making sure that somebody doesn't take the top off the defense. Because DK Metcalf has that straight line speed. They hit him on a 9 route, on a go route. That can be problematic. And then Tyler Lockett, just like I said, he's a wily vet who he takes care of the football. And Pete Carroll, veteran coach. I mean, them are guys that are usually in contention. These guys are, usually doing quite well. And it just comes down to the same fundamentals, ball security and field position and all those things that you normally would chalk up to trying to get a win. And, I'm interested to see what the crowd's like on Sunday. It's Christmas Eve. Now that everybody knows the Titans are not out of the playoff picture or possibilities at all. And I'll say this for anybody who's watching this. If you've never had a chance to go to a Titans game, go to a Titans game. They're fun.
Mm-hmm.
The production value is good. Some of the biggest, fastest, best athletes in the world. And by the way, speaking of fast athletes, did you hear Mike Vrabel on the Mike Vrabel show Monday night when Mike Keith asked him about Treylon Burks?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Treylon had a nice game. He had 3 for 62 Sunday. Biggest output he's had since week 2 against the Chargers at home, where he had 3 for 76, I think. And just talking about kind of working him back into things after he missed 3 games with a concussion protocol. He said with their trackers, with that chip they put in their uniform, whatever, or tracking him, he was running right at 21 miles an hour on some of those routes.
God.
And that, Treylon Burks is a big fella now.
Yes.
He's a big boy. That one kind of took me, and I know he wasn't slow, but I'm sitting here going, whoa, 21 miles an hour.
Well, that's
kind of like some of those runs we've seen Derrick Henry go on, where it's like he was clocked it. I'm like, what?
Yeah. And again, Treylon hasn't been healthy for so long because of concussions and the injuries and everything, that to actually see and hear these going 21 is like, okay, so this means we actually have a healthy.
And that's
Treylon.
what we're talking about with these last 3 games. We need to see that. We need to see Chig Okonkwo, who is starting to regain some of the thing. It's about this time last year. He was okay throughout rookie year, and then he started building.
Yeah.
That's what we need to continue to see from 2 guys right there that are in year 2 that will be going into year 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say, 2024, they've got some pieces in place. They need some help in some spots.
Well, Rhett, I know that you've been hanging out in the studio all day, all night. You've after Titans tonight. You've had a busy day, man. So we'll go ahead and let you go.
And I'll say this in wrapping up. It is, for me mentally, for us on Titans Radio, because we are full tilt boogie, going from the minute that training camp starts. And it's hard for me, my body wants to say, okay, Rhett, you can slow down now because there's nothing after this 3-week period. I'm like, I listen, I still have to do, a slow day is a 12-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I'm having to get adjusted to. And knowing that, and also, but the thing that also keeps me going, like I said before, draft preparation and all that stuff and the off season is going to keep us quite busy because there'll be a lot of transactions,
Well, and
a lot of transactions.
I told my wife the other day, I said, she goes, "Why are you so down?" And I said, I drove home Sunday night after the game and I was thinking about just how much goes into the season just for us. And I mean, again, and I don't do as much as you do. And I know that we don't do as much as the team does, but from the moment the season ended and we were eliminated against the Jags to getting ready for the Senior Bowl, to we go, 3HL goes to the Super Bowl, we come back, and the moment we come back from the Super Bowl, we're looking at draft stuff. Then we had the draft party, and we had, the huge productions that we all put on, and in how, it was on.
And
Titans
then the NFL
Radio,
regular season schedule release. And then there's a little window, and then next thing you know, here we go with training camp.
You go with training camps, you have your OTAs, like there's
Mm-hmm.
so much that has happened, and you look back at all the road that we've traveled, and it's like, this is a long road, and I wasn't ready for it to end. Like, I don't think any of us were ready for it.
You were not ready for rinse and repeat.
Yes, you weren't. Like,
I get it.
It's an empty feeling. Like I told Mike, just joking around with him Monday, I said there's just this big empty void in my chest that I wasn't prepared to potentially have for 3 or 4 weeks.
And part of it is the way that you lost the game. Mm-hmm. You had a 13-3 lead at halftime, or was it 13-0? I can't remember. Anyway, I've tried to forget already. And then you lost it at the end of a full overtime period, mm-hmm. something that could have ended in a tie. Mm-hmm. It's just you played 70 minutes of football. So it's a lot of it is the way that it ended. And then, Will Levis getting bent like a pretzel, that didn't help anything. And so, it's, I have to focus now on the holidays and family and Christmas because I don't want to be the bummer in this. And for everybody who's watched this all season, thank you. Mm-hmm. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Yes. And since we're leaving it on the good note of the Merry Christmas, that's how we're going to end it instead of all the bad stuff that we just talked about.
There it is.
Let's get to that second half. Rhett, we appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much.